In this winter season, we're finding a lot of what is termed ice damming.
If you look at this roof, and I'll shine my laser, my green laser, can you see my laser on there? So it's on the white surface so you can see it. Now here we have this valley system, and I'm going up and then down here at the eave. And right here, the red and black, this is the eave, this is the shingles on here. Now if you notice, there's icicles all along here. Now we don't have an ice damming issue on this roof currently now, and that's because there's a few reasons for that. One of it's ventilation. This roof has sufficient intake ventilation, which you cannot see, but there's a little hump right here. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna move some of that snow real quick so you can see it. There's a vent right here, and that's the intake ventilation that you can see in here. And there's also an exhaust, a ridge vent on the top. So this roof is actually, the interior temperature of that attic space is well ventilated, so it's not getting too hot. Because what happens with ice damming is you have that heat from inside the house that's leaking into the attic space, and then what's going on is melting the snow underneath on top of the shingles, and then what it's doing is it's creating water, and that water is freezing, and then when it freezes, it backs up and goes underneath the shingles and causes a leak. Now most roofs, this one, if you look under here in the eave, you notice there's not an overhang. This is just a 2x, it's stuccoed and sealed up. So this is not normal. A lot of these houses have at least a 12-inch up to 2 feet or 3 feet overhang. Now what that does is you have a section on the roof, like if this eave had a 2-foot overhang, your attic space wouldn't start till up here. What that means is from there to here, this is extremely cold because there's no insulation, there's no heat loss in that section, so this will always be frozen. But up here, where the edge of the attic would start normally in a house, that's where you have the heat loss, and that's where you get the melting occurring underneath the shingles. And because this is cold up here, not melting, that's trapping the water up here, and that's causing everything to back up, and the ice will actually go up underneath the shingles through the nails into the attic space. Also, what will happen is you'll have a large buildup. Remember I told you these icicles here, they're normal. Now what happens is the snow is melting and is dripping. During the daytime, you won't have the icicles creating unless you have freezing temperatures and the sun is not strong if you have, a weak sun. But at night, all those drips will start to freeze, and you'll start icicles will create, and then that'll just start getting worse and worse. So when you have those warm days, very warm days, and then very cold, and it just keeps fluctuating day after day, these icicles will continue to grow to the point where this gutter here will actually fill up with all the snow and ice, and it'll back up. So the only place for the icicles and the melting water, melting snow to go to is it'll build up, and you see this black flashing here, and I'll shine it over here so you can see that flashing. That's the drip edge, and this is the gutter here. Now the drip edge goes over the gutter. Now if this gets so filled up, it will go up over that gutter and behind to the fascia, and then you'll actually start to see under here, you'll see icicles in your soffit hanging down. It'll actually get on your siding, and it'll go in and out through the siding, and now you're gonna rely on your house wrap on your house to protect you against any water damage. Some older homes, and even some newer ones I've seen, don't have the house wrap to protect against that. But ultimately, the ice damming is created by a lack of ventilation. You have heat loss, and then also, it's going to depend on the temperature. Sometimes you can't prevent that. It's like a hailstorm. Ice damming is like a storm, a hailstorm or a big rainstorm, where sometimes you just can't prevent it. You could do things to give you additional protection, but you'll never really have something where it's just going to be ice dam proof, because ice damming, what you need is those conditions for it to grow, and it'll continue to get worse. And the only thing you can do, like in this situation, one way would be if you put those heat cables. You would put the heat cables on this eave right here, just so that way when you got the snow and everything, the water up here, it would follow one of those lines down into the gutter system and then drain down to the downspout. But then you also need to have the heat cable run parallel inside your gutter, because if you melt the snow on the roof system and you don't have anywhere for the water to evacuate and get away from your roof system and gutters, then it's only going to back up naturally. So you need that heat cable in the gutter system to melt all this ice, so that way you have a channel for the water to evacuate and you don't have the buildup of ice.